We've just been listening to the bagpipes, as is customary with police funerals, and Officer Beesley's body draped in the American flag, escorted by his pallbearers and an honor guard or casket watch of sorts. Steve Davis, a longtime retired police officer, joins us in studio to talk some about these customary traditions and the fact that somebody has been watching over him since his death.
Certainly. You see them bringing it in the casket, they'll place it, but you'll see two officers, one at each end of that casket, stand there the entire service. They will be changed out with other officers coming in every few minutes, but again, the attempt to never leave that body alone, even through the service. Until that casket is in the ground, you will have at least two officers always with that casket in the body.
Which is what we're seeing here now. Let's listen in again.
But also to honor and to celebrate the life of a very, very good man. God, I thank you for this community that comes together in unity and in love and in support as we rally around one of our own who paid the greatest sacrifice willingly. And so we honor this man. We honor this family. And we honor this community. We pray that everything that happens honors you and honors the life of Gordon Beesley. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Please be seated. The thin blue line can be compared to a sunrise. It's the thin blue line of light between the darkness and the daylight. Every department attending today's service is represented by a blue rose in honor of Officer Beesley and his family.
Steve, maybe we could describe a little bit what we're seeing here. Obviously, certain mementos have been placed up front that are representative of Officer Beesley and his life, and his professional career and personal life.
Correct, and you heard the pastor say that each department there receives a blue rose. Now they'll all come by and deposit that one rose into that vase. So you'll have a representation, a pretty close representation of how many departments are there by seeing how many roses end up in there.
And as we mentioned earlier, people from all across the country, from departments across the country, coming to say their goodbyes and pay their respects to Officer Beesley. What happens to the roses at the end of this ceremony?
You know, a lot of times they're given to the family as mementos. I don't know if sometimes they might give them back to the departments that they were sent to. In most cases, yeah, it would go with the family.
And that's not the only thing the family's going to be taking today. They also, I mean, obviously several mementos will go with them, but one of them being the flag at the end, and that's a very special ceremony as well.
Yeah, we've seen that in almost every ceremony. I'm sure we'll see it again today, the folding of that flag, and it takes a while. There are certain protocols to meet. That flag is folded an exact way, and then it's inspected by one officer before it is turned, before he turns and hands it to the chief of police. Then the chief of police will take that folded flag and present it to Officer Beesley's wife.
And of course, judging by the procession earlier this morning, I mean, there were first responders as far as the eye could see that were filing into the church. A tremendous show of support from fellow law enforcement agencies, and we know that with the hundreds that are there today to support Officer Gordon Beesley and his family, there are others who are still working today to pick up for that department that's hurting.
Yeah, and customarily other departments will fill in for, in this case, Arvada Police Department, cover their calls, answer the calls, I should say. Patrol the streets of Arvada. That gives the entire Arvada Police Department a chance to attend this service. So if you see a Denver police car in Arvada, that's probably a real good bet what's going on today is they're relieving Arvada PD.
Talk about there's so much emotion right now. Obviously, this will be a celebration of life for Officer Beesley. He was a musician. He was a school resource officer, had such a tremendous impact on kids in the community.
Yeah.
And we've heard so many stories of just how much of a positive force he was to everyone that he came into contact with after a senseless act of violence. What are some of the conversations that Arvada Police Department is having in the wake of this?
Well, I would imagine, as you said, it's obviously a very, very solemn time. It's a very sad time, especially for the family and for Arvada Police Department. But again, like you said, it is a celebration of life also. So we talked earlier about maybe some lighter moments. You know, I think we want to get an idea of Officer Beesley's life and the man that he was. And to do that, there could quite possibly be a mixture of sad stories and those lighter stories. So I'm sure we'll see that.
And just by looking at the stage there, you can get a little bit of an idea of the type of guy that he was. They have a drum set up there.
Yeah.
They have skis. We're told he was, passionate about skiing, passionate about music. Obviously, he loved children. He loved working as a school resource officer. All right, let's listen in for another minute.
As the pastor of Flatirons Community Church, and on behalf of Flatirons, our leadership, our staff, and the thousands of people who call Flatirons, that's my church, today we say welcome. Today, let this be your church. Since church, by definition, is simply a place, or better yet, it's a group of people who are dedicated to and set apart for the things and purposes of God, and this moment would certainly qualify. See, the things and purposes of God would certainly include words like laughter, which we're going to laugh today, music, family, father, husband, friend, all words you will hear many times in the next few minutes. You also hear words like love, service, honor, duty, and sacrifice, and all of these sacred words will be used to point to the life of Gordon Beesley. The Bible is clear where God, through the Apostle Paul, instructs us to give honor where honor is due. As a matter of fact, the thing that we are told in Scripture to be competitive in is outdoing one another in honor. That should be our competition. How can we honor each other well? Jesus did that often. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories about Jesus was when Jesus had an interaction with a military law enforcement officer who, and we're not even told if the guy believed in Jesus or if believed in God, but in a moment of crisis, when he was concerned about someone in his life who was hurting and in need, the officer approached Jesus and asked Jesus, "Can you get involved in my problem? Not for my benefit, not for myself, but so that somebody else's life could get better." When he did that, the Bible says that Jesus was amazed by this officer's faith. And that's Bible talk for the guy blew Jesus' mind. Wouldn't you like to be known as the person who blew Jesus' mind? Yeah, I never had the honor of personally knowing Gordon Beesley. But yesterday, I did have the honor of sitting and listening to Gordon's wife, Karen, and his sons and his sister describe the kind of man who might qualify, even if he didn't blow Jesus' mind. I think Jesus would really like hanging out with Gordon. And here's what I mean. And you're going to see this over the next hour. Jesus loved a good party. You probably never heard that in church, but he did. The first time we see Jesus really doing anything significant in the Bible, it's at a party, and the bar ran out of wine, and he rescues it by turning water into wine. And apparently, everywhere Gordon went, a party broke out. Music, wine, dancing, laughter. Everybody I've talked to in the last several days, when they talked about Gordon, always used words like, he's fun. Laughter, music, dancing. Here's another one. Even if you don't know a lot about Jesus, one thing you would assume is that Jesus loved people well, and so did Gordon. Top of the list, he loved his family. Top of the list, he loved Karen. I'll get in trouble for this. Karen described for me how they met. See if I get this right, all right? She was on the rebound from a former boyfriend, and she said, and I think I quote this right, "I'm gonna lower my standards and date anybody, even if they're not my type." And then here comes a goatee, mutton chop, sideburn, motorcycle riding musician who turned out to be a gentleman who was the love of her life. Karen described Gordon as a man who stayed and helped with the dishes while the rest of the guys ran off to watch the ball game, who would grab her and spontaneously start dancing with her in the living room, who always made sure there were fresh flowers on the table, who always made it home for dinner, an event he considered sacred. For the record, all the other men in the family said Gordon made them look horrible. The boys talked about fun times they had with their dad, riding bikes, traveling together, playing music together. But the best thing I heard you guys say yesterday was your dad was really easy to talk to, approachable. I think you used, he was an understanding listener. What teenage boys say that about their dad? When Gordon pushed them to do things they didn't really want to do or enjoy, they knew what he was going to say. Go on and do it. It builds character. How many times? When anybody screwed up or made a mistake, rather than getting frustrated or angry at him, he'd just say, these things happen. Gordon loved people well. If he was working late at school and the cleaning lady walked by, he'd put down the phone or close the computer and ask her, what's your name and how's your day gone? As a safety officer, Gordon noticed the kid that nobody else noticed. Made him feel special, right? Here's a quote: "No one walked away from an encounter with Gordon without feeling special." A lot of you can testify to that. Gordon loved riding bikes, but more so, he loved sharing that love with others. He was constantly building and repairing bikes and giving them away. He formed a bike club at school. I love this. He heard about a young man with special needs who wanted to ride his bike to school, but couldn't do it by himself. So 2 days a week, Gordon would get to school early, ride over to this young man's house and ride with him to school. It's a good man. One of the news stories described one of Gordon's motto, find the good in everything, but Karen corrected that yesterday to find the good in everyone and every person. See, Gordon knew that everyone had a story. All of us have stories. And many times those are very hard and sad stories because, like he said, these things happen, but when they do, you have to push through the things and find the best in everyone. Gordon took this perspective and this worldview with him when he went to work as a police officer. I got a note yesterday from his brother-in-law, Nicky, who described Gordon this way. And when he turned to police work, he did it with empathy and gentleness of someone who knew the importance of both order and mercy. And the fact we all goof up sometimes, and life is all the richer for it. Nicky, I don't know, I don't think anybody will say anything better than that today. See, if you had the honor of calling Gordon Beesley your husband, or your dad, or your son, or your brother, or your friend, your life is all the richer for it. Karen told me that she and Gordon had talked about this day, should it ever come. Gordon wouldn't have wanted a big fuss over his passing, but something more small and intimate. But he also understood that something bigger is going on here today. Scripture says that there's a time to laugh and a time to mourn, and we're going to do a lot of that over the next few weeks. There's a time to honor, there's a time to heal, there's a time to love, there's a time to hate. A lot of us are processing all of those things right now. So what would Gordon want to leverage these few minutes that we have together today? What would he want to tell us? How about this? Go home and love your family better. Love your wife. Dance in the living room. Listen to your kids with understanding this time. Bring fresh flowers home. Play music. Drink wine. Laugh more. Buy a kid a bike. Find the balance between order and mercy. And give more grace, because we all goof up sometimes. These things happen. So I started talking about Jesus, so I'm going to close by doing the same. The Apostle Paul says this: these three things remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Gordon loved well. And all our lives are richer for it. Amen? So in church world, if you agree with someone and they say amen, you say amen. Gordon loved well. Amen? Amen. Yeah. I'd like to introduce Arvada Police Chief Link Straight.
As you can imagine, this is very difficult. We are here to honor and to celebrate the life of Gordon Beesley. For those of us that were lucky enough to know Gordon, we understand it is impossible to fully capture who he was, his kindness, his decency, his compassion, and his service. But for those of you who don't know, Gordon David Beesley, or as we called him here at the PD, Gordo, was born in Stamford, Connecticut, the son of John and Jill. He grew up with his brother, Tony, and his sister, Mandy. Gordon graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder in 1991 with a bachelor's degree in English, and yet he decided to become a police officer. I believe it was his way of finding a way to serve. Gordon married his amazing bride, Karen, in 2003. In August of 2005, Gordon and Karen had their first child, a son they named Toby. 2 years later, in June of 2007, they had their second son, Mateus. Gordon joined our department in 2002. He spent 4 years on patrol, and then he joined the traffic unit as a motorcycle officer, where he spent the next 5 years. And that was a great statement, because while Gordon understood the importance of traffic safety, I think he hated every time he had to write a traffic ticket to somebody. And finally, he served as a school resource officer. He truly found his calling, where he made a difference to hundreds of young students in our community, and he had an innate ability to find the students that needed help the most and to guide them through anything they were struggling with. Gordon graced the Arvada Police Department and this community with 19 years of dedicated service. Gordon played the drums on the Arvada Police Department Drum and Bugle Corps, and quite frankly, he looked remarkably good in a kilt. This past Monday, Gordon was taken from us. He was 51 years old, and it was far too soon for us to say goodbye to him. Gordon was a lot of things in life. He was a husband, he was a father, he was a brother and a son. He was a police officer, a friend, a musician, a cyclist. In addition to all of this, he was kind, he was caring, he was humble. He had a fundamental goodness to him that's all too rare. His goodness stood out from the rest so significantly that you would stop and ask, why aren't more people like Gordon? It's impossible to separate Gordon the police officer from Gordon the person, and that's because his character and his personality shone through in everything he did. He was full of kindness and joy. He was willing to listen and to serve in every capacity. Gordon cared about people immensely. He had a huge heart. In nearly 20 years of service, I don't think any of us can remember a time that we saw Gordon negative. I don't think any of us can remember a time when Gordon wasn't willing to stop and help. As you can imagine, not every day in this profession is a good day. Well, after 5 minutes with Gordon, you couldn't help but walk away feeling better. He knew how to cheer anybody up. His positive attitude and kindness were simply infectious. Many of us know about the story of his dedication to a student and a young friend at Oberon. When Micah's mom was worried about her child riding his bike to school, Gordon took it upon himself to arrive early every Tuesday and Thursday, not for a week and not for a month, to accompany Micah on his morning bike ride to school. Sounds remarkable, and it was. But that was just one of the countless stories of Gordon's service. Some time ago, a trainee recalled peering over Gordon's shoulder a little awkwardly while Gordon was busily focused on handling some evidence. Instead of saying, "You need something, Rook?" like some might, he said on this very busy day, Gordon being Gordon, "Hey, come over here. Let me show you what I'm doing." That's Gordon. He would make time for everybody. Gordon was fun. He was incredibly fun to be around, and he was talented in so many ways. Of course, he was proud to be a talented musician and share joy and laughter through music. He had a foot pedal and a bass drum at his desk at Oberon, and he would make the entire school smile and laugh when he dressed up and played Christmas songs over the holidays. Once, at an annual conference for school resource officers, Gordon broke his guitar out and started leading karaoke. Before long, wouldn't you know it, Gordon had everyone singing Margaritaville on the balcony. If you were around Gordon much, you knew that he couldn't go a day without mentioning his family. Family meant everything to Gordon. He loved them more than anything. He always had something to share about them, an accomplishment, a funny story, or something that he was proud of. To Karen, Toby, Mateus, and to all the members of Gordon's family, on behalf of all the members of the Arvada Police Department, we extend our deepest condolences to you. Our words will never be enough to adequately express your loss and the sympathy we have for you. We share your grief, and we can only hope that the men and women who walk through our doors will aspire to serve as well as Gordon. Toby, Mateus, you will hear your dad described in a lot of ways by those that knew and worked with him here at the police department. You'll hear that he was a great cop, he was a gentleman, that he was a hero. Those are all true. But most importantly, your dad was quite simply one of the finest human beings I ever met. We will never forget him. And I know I'm not alone in saying this. His loss will forever be felt by those he touched and he inspired, those he made a difference to. We are a better department for having had Gordon work with us for so many years, to teach and influence us on what it means to live a life of service. I'm not sure how long this raw emotion and sadness will last. The pain can be overwhelming, but I promise you his memory won't invoke that in us forever. No, his memory will be a blessing. His memory will help guide us to be more like Gordon, to be brave, to serve, to have empathy, to love and to care, to laugh, to make a difference to someone around you, to be the best possible version of yourself every day. Gordo, we will look for the good in everyone. Thank you for sharing your life's gift of shining joy. You not only humanized our bads, you made us better people.
Thank you, Chief Strait. I'd like to now introduce Arvada Police Sergeant Brian Tommy.
My name is Brian Tommy, and I'm a sergeant with the Arvada Police Department. I've worked with Gordon for the past 18 years. Gordon's badge number is 0219, and mine is 0316, so we've known each other a long time. Karen, thank you for the honor of being allowed to speak about your husband and my friend, Gordon, at what can only be described as a tragic and painful time. But I don't want to dwell on the tragic and painful, for that would be a disservice to Gordon's memory. I would instead like to share snippets of our friendship. I know everyone at the PD and everyone here who knew Gordon has their own story, has their own experience, which are very similar to mine. Gordon was a kid from Jersey who was a vegetarian, musician, and rode his bike to work. He also knew what the word organic meant. I'm a kid from a small town, Wisconsin, who likes to shoot, hunt, fish, and drives a 4x4 truck. On paper, we had little in common, but with our first meeting 20 years ago, our friendship began. Gordon came bebopping in the locker room wearing high-top Chuck Taylors, short shorts, tie-dye shirt, and a hop and a step a little bit different than everybody else. So there we were, getting ready for work, and I saw a tattoo on his shoulder, and it looks like a wolf. Well, 20 years ago, most people who got tattoos were either Marines or outlaw biker gang members. So I naturally asked him if that wolf tattoo is because he's in some kind of pact. He proceeded to tell me, no, it's his dog. Well, this intrigued me. My first thoughts were, that might be the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Man, I love my dog too. Where the Red Fern Grown is my favorite book. And any man that has such absolute commitment to his dog to have this picture tattooed on his shoulder is going to be a friend of mine. Then I was just thinking, I really wanted to meet this dog. I became dumbfounded when he asked me if I had any tattoos. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was some witty, smart-ass comment like, no, my arms aren't big enough yet, or you don't put bumper stickers on a Ferrari. And that's when I heard it. And you all know what I'm talking about, that special Gordon laugh. And it was always accompanied by that giant smile. It was part giggle, part belly laughed, and that's when I knew he just got it. Without saying anything more, we were going to be friends, and we were. Over the 18 years that followed, we had many similar funny conversations. I know I'm not the only one that had that kind of connection and moment with Gordon. Some of my favorite conversations were early on when we both started having kids. Oh, would we laugh. Who would have thought of two grown men carrying guns would be talking about changing diapers as much as we did? Or about when our babies would cry in the middle of the night and we would both fake being asleep until our wives would get up. The key was to never move, don't change your breathing pattern, and when they did get up, wait for them to actually get all the way out of bed before you give the completely genuine, oh, what's going on? Can I help? Only to be met with that look of just disgust, but the glorious words of, just go back to sleep. As the kids started getting older, Gordon and I would talk about different trips we would take with our families, and the Beesley family adventures were legendary. I couldn't keep track of how many times he took his family on some foreign adventure, but one story will never leave my mind. Gordon and Karen were in Costa Rica, I think. Well, it doesn't really matter. They were on a beach somewhere I've never been, probably staying in a native structure rescuing sea turtles. That's not the point. Gordon told me he was on the beach when Tom Brady and his wife Giselle rode by in ATVs enjoying beach life. Gordon said that he was checking out the situation. He determined that supermodel wife wasn't all that super without all the makeup. And Tom was definitely the hotter one of the couple. Tom had the flowing locks at the time, and he really enjoyed that. I could not stop laughing, and that was the nature of our friendship. Deeply thought-provoking discussions followed by gut-busting laughter. In the past few days, I've been speaking to others at the PD about Gordon, and there's some priceless memories of Gordon that I need to mention. The music needs to be rocking at all times when you work out. The stereo set up in the gym at work is Gordon's. It's some 1980s stereo with speaker wires going everywhere. He found at some rummage sale, and he's the only one that knows how to turn it on. It's Gordon's locker room, and everybody else is just visiting. The towels hanging everywhere are probably his. It is still socially acceptable to wear leopard print underwear. Flexing your muscles at your friends should be done often. My personal favorite was to knock on the door of the weight room, wait for him to see me, and I would get an instant double bis flex followed by the classic quad shake and then flex. And I would proceed to go into the gym and grab whatever he was doing and rip out a few reps and then tell him I was just making sure there was enough weight for him. And then would come his laugh. His motor motto was 10 before 10, and then the classic bye as he would drive away on his black Harley. He figured out how to hook his iPod up to his work radio so he could jam the music while not missing a call for service and ride his Harley on the same time. Singing Blue Christmas Elvis style while playing the guitar Christmas morning at briefing, and for those of you who have worked Christmas morning, you know that it could light up a room. If you miss a shot at the range, just say, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're amongst the stars. These are priceless memories of Gordon. Karen, I thank you on behalf of the police department, every school staff member, every student, every citizen, every employee of the city of Arvada, his school resource officer partners, every person in this room that knew Gordon and myself. Thank you for sharing him with us. We all know that there are no words that can adequately or fully express your loss. I know Gordon led a life of personal sacrifice for others, but so did you because you supported him. I know he could not have accomplished all the things he did without you by his side. You share in these accomplishments. The profession he chose is not an easy one, and he always put others before himself. Thank you for sharing the most precious thing in all the world of all of us, time. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Toby and Mateus, I want to talk to you directly about your dad. Now, I have family back in Wisconsin, and they're potato farmers. And there's an old saying that says, if you plant potatoes, you get them. Boys, know that your dad is in your blood, he's in your heart, and he's in your mind. And no one can ever take that away from you. He is and always will be part of you. Your dad has already given you the greatest gift any father can give his boys. The roadmap on how to live life. How to think of others before oneself. How to take one's job seriously but not oneself. How a life of service can be more valued than any amount of money. To listen more than you talk. To walk a mile in another man's shoes before you make any judgments. Find something you are passionate about and go after it. Motivation will only get you so far. Discipline will take you the rest of the way. Travel the world, and most importantly, love your wife and kids with all your heart. Now, when I was promoted to sergeant in 2012, I received a text from your dad that said, "Stay gold, pony boy." This is a line from the book, The Outsiders. And what it means to me is to always be yourself. Don't let anyone get in your way from you being you. As you work your way through this, and I know you will, I want you to take a moment and look around and see all the people that are here honoring your dad. Now, when you take your next step forward, in whatever you do, all of us will be with you. Now, stay gold, pony boys.
Yeah, we just heard from Sergeant Brian Tommy, a friend of Officer Gordon Beesley's, Arvada Police Chief Link Straight, giving us a little window into who Gordon Beesley was, and just from their comments, he sounds like an amazing person, full of life, always finding the good in everyone. That's a motto he lived by, to make someone's day special every day, and how much he loved his family, how much he loved his department, his co-workers, how playful he was in spirit while also keeping the task at hand in mind.
They talked about his laugh, part giggle, part belly laugh with a giant smile. You know, he was really a man who dedicated his entire life to service, whether it was serving the community with the police department, serving the kids as a school resource officer, just making people laugh, playing music. You know, it got me choked up listening to Brian Tommy address his boys. He leaves behind 2 boys and a wife.
2 boys and a wife. He had a brother and a sister. He joined the motorcycle unit early on during his 19 years with the Arvada Police Department. He loved to bike. We heard stories of him biking with a special needs child to school twice a week over a long period of time. He was a 2015 City of Arvada Employee of the Year. There is a tree planted in his honor. He loved to travel. He loved adventure. He loved music, and he loved sharing all of that with people.
And that's really what we've drawn from this so far, is he just loved to share life and his love for life with those around him, whether it was his coworkers, whether it was the students or his family. He was just such a special guy. Steve, I had a question. You know, the sergeant mentioned the badge numbers, and he said they weren't far apart. Can you explain a little bit about what he meant there?
Well, if I remember right, he said Gordon's badge number was 02 something, and the sergeant's badge was 03 something. That 02 is the year of your hiring. Okay. So his badge number would have been 02, and then whichever number of officer you were that year you hired. So the sergeant was obviously hired that following year after Gordon in 03. But I think so far in the service we've done exactly what we anticipated, and that is got a snapshot of Gordon's life, the man he was, and the things he enjoyed, the things he participated in, and I'm sure we'll probably hear some more, but we're getting a good idea that we would have never ever known about Gordon Beesley.
And when you take a look at his life, I mean, and how joyous he was to be around, how easy he was to talk to, how much he loved people to laugh with him. When you're in a high-stress job, like a police officer, like a school resource officer, how important is that to the department, to the schools, to have someone like that to lean on?
Oh, I think it's essential. I mean, those are the types of people you're looking for when you hire for officers. You've got to have a mixture of people. You've got to have each of those people have a mixture of qualities, emotions, and Gordon sounds like he had quite a mixture, if you will, several ingredients into his personality. So I'm sure it worked well for him in his career.
It sounds like it. And again, we want to mention that when it cuts away from the service like this, it's out of respect for the family. We want to give them their privacy as we show this service in its entirety. And Steve Davis, obviously a longtime police officer, and with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, we talked about him being a school resource officer, and the qualities that it takes to be a school resource officer. It's not for everyone.
No, not at all.
All right. So again, the family has asked to not be shown, so we're really trying to respect their wishes. That's why we're going to dip in and out of the coverage throughout the morning, just out of respect for his family. And again, that was his sister, Mandy, about to share some memories of her brother.
But how special to hear from a student at Oberon Middle School, where he was a school resource officer, and certainly touched a lot of kids' lives, teaching them about music, coaching them through incidents of bullying and being a positive influence in their life. And you heard her mention that it's hard to talk about him in a past tense.
Yeah.
That he was on patrol because it is the summer months and not in the school year. And we heard so many stories of notes being left on the memorial of his patrol car outside the Arvada Police Department, notes with kids' handwriting and posters that were signed by children who did not get a chance to say goodbye. And that's especially moving to hear what an impact he had on young lives in addition to adults.
And you know, we talked about the qualities of people who become school resource officers. And I think this young lady's comments are probably indicative of a large portion of that student population, and no doubt she represents the school and the student population.
You know, one of the things she said is, why does God always take the good ones? And, you know, we never met Officer Beesley, but watching what we have of this memorial service so far, I found myself thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Why is it always the good ones? Because we've heard so much about his spirit, how just he was a lovely person who enjoyed life and enjoyed music and enjoyed making people happy. And in this day and age, that is rare to find.
Yeah, I don't know why he takes the good ones, but I feel like the good ones are the ones who aspire to be in those positions and do what he did for a living and do it well.
Certainly, people that we've spoken to over the past week say that there is so many layers to Officer Gordon Beesley.
And not because of how he died, but how he lived. Here is Denver 7's Jacqueline Allen.
It hit me like a rock yesterday when I was informed.
For a loss this devastating,
Gordon Beesley was the best man I've ever known.
words are not enough.
I just truly can't imagine a world without him.
Action is how those who knew Officer Gordon Beesley want to remember him.
He was a Renaissance man. He was just incredible. I mean, he was the type of man that I aspired to be.
Somehow police officer and rock star, biker and kid's best friend.
My son asked me, like, who's going to replace him? Nobody can replace him.
The officer who spent 19 years serving with the Arvada Police Department left a legacy at nearby schools.
Every T days.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Micah Peterson says the man who got him a bike and then rode to school with him for 2 years was not just a school resource officer.
He was just like my dad, always there for me, really cared about me.
We're forever grateful for all that he did to help us and to help Micah. And
his selfless acts led to being named Arvada's 2014 Employee of the Year, a young oak planted in his honor, now tied in blue ribbon. Before joining Arvada Police, Gordon Beesley, well known in Denver's music community as a drummer. That musical talent often on display for students and staff at Oberon Middle School.
He went wherever he was needed.
The husband and father of two, also mourned by a larger family, walking from Olde Town to the growing memorial at police headquarters.
You knew you were in good hands. So it's very hard to see it.
Gordon Beesley had a motto: look for the good in every day. On this day, the good is an officer who was good. Jacqueline Allen, Denver 7.
He was the 2015 Arvada Employee of the Year, and the response to the shooting last week shut down Arvada City Hall and postponed their city council meeting.
And when council met again last night, Mayor Mark Williams reflected on the tragedy that struck his town.
It's been an incredibly tough 7 days since what happened last Monday. And this week, Arvada has been wounded literally in its very heart. An individual who had hatred, absolute hatred, for the police and for the Arvada Police Department in particular, set off a horrendous chain of events that has led to 3 tragedies and adversely affected many, many people. This gunman ambushed and murdered Officer Gordon Beesley, who was a 19-year veteran of the Arvada Police Department. Gordon, and I can smile when I talk about Gordon, was a school resource officer. He was a former recipient of the Arvada Employee of the Year Award, and I vividly remember going to the park when he planted his tree. He was loved by all, especially his wife and 2 children. They and all of us are grieving. Johnny Hurley was a visitor to Olde Town who took decisive, very decisive action to protect others without thought for his own safety. Based upon reports, he shot and killed the gunman, which without question saved lives of other officers and potentially other citizens in our community. He died a hero, and we'll call him here tonight a hero and forever call him a hero to our community. Arvada will be forever in his debt, and we offer our thoughts and our prayers to his family, friends, and loved ones.
And that was Arvada Mayor Mark Williams reflecting on the tragedy and on Officer Beesley and his death. Moving forward, what are some of the conversations that might be happening? We know that he was ambushed. We know he was targeted because he was in a uniform and badge. What are some of the things the department will be looking at to make sure something like this is maybe perhaps preventable in the future, or safety is improved for officers?
Yeah, I think a very good educated guess would be that the investigation is far from being over. One of the things that I anticipate is that they will want to know all they can about the suspect and why his feelings were what they were.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to pause you. We're going to get back to the service. The pastor is now reading some quotes from some of the friends of Officer Beesley.
Find his calling. They made him a better man, and he made them a better department. He was fully engaged in his work, both as a patrol officer and as a school resource officer. He embraced every opportunity to make a difference in the lives of the students at Oberlin and took the responsibility of their hearts and minds very seriously. Gordon spoke often about how much he loved being a father, reveled in his time with the boys in outdoor activities in the mountains and on their extensive travels. He was endlessly proud of his kids and spoke of how fortunate he was to have them as his sons. The boys are witness to the community their father served and that now serves them. Gordon and Karen worked tirelessly to show them a path that promotes dignity and love, humanity, compassion, humor, and adventure. They laid the groundwork for the boys to become successful men. It has been an honor for me to experience them, and in our short encounters with them, I've come to know that these 2 young men are going to change the world. Finally, I think it honors Gordon best to remember that Gordon is. Instead of thinking about him in the past tense, we need to focus on what Gordon is to us all. He is the joy. He is the kindness and humanity we greet each other with. He is the deep belly laugh that accompanies a great story. He is the connection we seek with one another. Connection with other people was Gordon's currency. And that connection is something we can all carry from this setting today and share with those who never had the pleasure of knowing our great friend, Gordon Beesley.
And joined once again by Steve Davis as we cut away from the service just briefly, and we saw the honor guard members there watching over his casket, and we talk about the support that is there for the department. The Colorado Hero Foundation, that's where the family and the department would like to try to funnel any kind of donation that is out there to support the family to the Colorado Hero Foundation. Right. Talk about that organization a little bit and everything that they do for the department. Well,
once again, that organization was formed, I'm again guessing, about 8 years ago, something like that. It's people from all metro area and some of the statewide area police departments and sheriff's offices that got together because they recognized that when this happens, a department is so overwhelmed with everything going on, they just can't possibly take care of all the details. So the Colorado Fallen Hero Foundation steps in, takes over everything. I mean, to alleviate all that headache and trouble away from the department, so that the department can probably deal with the family a little bit more rather than all the details of what you're seeing today. The Colorado Fallen Hero Foundation is the place to channel all donations instead of trying to get them to 3 or 4 different places. So if on the internet it's cofallenhero.org, and you can go there and find places that you can make donations if that's what you choose to do. I find it interesting in the service so far how many comments are directed at the 2 boys, at his sons. And I think being his sons and the ages they are, I'm sure their world has been shaken to the core. And I find it enlightening that these people are directing their comments to the 2 boys and assuring them about their father's life and also ensuring them about their lives to come.
And, you know, you've talked about how fellow officers will step up and really step in for that family, show up not just in the weeks to come, but the months and the years to come. And you've seen this personally in your department.
I have. In 1995, I had a partner shot and killed, and the support for his family and his children continues today. Those children are grown, but the department always keeps them in their thoughts, in the preparations for anything. Something like this is going on, you want to send members from the department to be there to comfort the family as they watch something that may create a real emotional experience for them. So the support to the family doesn't end. It may taper off over time, but as far as I know, it never ends.
And there's a symbolic moment that we will likely see later in the service with the final radio call, with the end of watch call.
End of watch call.
And that's, again, the members of his unit picking up the torch, carrying where he left off.
Yeah, you'll hear him call his number on the radio. There's obviously no response. They call 2 or 3 times. It's very symbolic that he's no longer there to answer. And that is the end of watch. And you'll hear him say, we've got the watch from here.
Steve, is this something a department, I can imagine it changes the department forever. So as these officers move forward, you know, are there checks in place to make sure that their mental health is okay? What kind of things exist within the department to make sure that these men and women are doing okay?
That's a great question, Molly. Years and years ago, I think it was suck it up, you know. At some point, suck it up, you've got a job to do, go back on the street. I think that departments over the years have recognized the need to be there for their other officers and for their mental health after experiencing something like this. And it is quite common that departments around here allow their employees to go seek counseling. There are certain counselors that I know of that do that for these law enforcement agencies and are on call for them. Most departments have that written into their benefits, as a matter of fact, now. And it's very confidential. If you're an officer and you find yourself really struggling with what's happened to maybe one of your close friends, you can take them up on that counseling and remain the information anyway is very, very confidential who goes.
But so important. So important to get help.
Essential.
If you need help.
Essential in today's world.
And an event like this can also shape an officer's career from here, and how they process that may put them on a different path.
Again, back to a personal experience, after I lost a partner in 1995, I gave serious thought to resigning. It bothered me so much for so long that happened, and it happened to somebody I knew. but I stuck with it. And yes, that kind of shaped my career for the next almost 20 years afterwards, remembering that.
Arvada police officer Gordon Beesley, much more, of course, as we've learned, than the badge he wore. He was a friend to many. He was a mentor to others.
And now he's an inspiration to those he never even met. And we honored him as this week's Denver 7 Everyday Hero.
Devastating news arrived by phone as Zach Smith was catching up on a backlog of woodworking orders. And immediately, the Army veteran knew.
There was no questions asked. I just got to work.
Arvada police officer Gordon Beesley killed in the line of duty, although details were still few.
It just felt like something that I could do, even though I'm cities away.
Here, nearly 100 miles from Arvada, Zach began working on a symbol of the officer's valor.
That is the one.
For the Beesley family left to carry on at home.
I feel like it's the best gesture I can do. You know, I can't go give them a hug. Most of the time you don't find out who they are. You just hear that there's an officer down.
It started 3 years ago when Zach first made the wooden flag for fallen Adams County Deputy Heath Gum. So touched by the officer he'd never met.
It's humbling. Yeah, it's really humbling.
He couldn't stop.
Well, I'm going to do this for free for every police officer and firefighter that falls in the line of duty in Colorado.
Now he has honored more than 20 servicemen and women from Colorado with a flag created from his woodworking shop.
It gives them something to look at. It gives them something to pick up and feel. Like they feel the weight of it and they see how much work I put into it. And it's like, it's overwhelming for them sometimes.
Zach won't accept a single dime from a service member's family.
May God bless you, Rachel, Levi, and Alana.
His wall covered in payments money could never fill.
So that's kind of like a collection of some of the ones that I have built for fallen officers. Like they'll just send me patches and stuff afterwards.
Tough as a soldier, tender as an artist, crafting up compassion for the families of Colorado's heroes.
We were really moved by what you do for veterans, for fallen officers. So on behalf of Denver 7 and American Financing, we want to honor you as a Denver 7 Everyday Hero.
Oh my God, you guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This is so...
And you know, I was telling both of you that we actually saw, if you look closely at the stage, you can see that memorial flag up on the stage. Zach says that he tries to deliver them personally by the day of the service. Otherwise, he'll have a family member of the fallen present the tribute to them. So it's really special to see that up there on the stage.
So many items. Again, the motorcycle, the bicycle, the drum set, the guitar that just let us know.
They're giving you that snapshot of his life.
That's right. What are some of the other traditions that we can expect to see throughout this service?
Well, obviously we talked about the flag folding. That'll be coming up. I think you'll also see, maybe see some other officers get up and talk about their relationship with Gordon. I don't know about any music, but then following that, you'll see them fall outside the church. Everyone falls into ranks outside there and awaits the casket to come out and be loaded into the hearse before they leave. They'll stay out there until that occurs. No one leaves until that hearse does.
We're just looking at video of early on in the service, showing some of the mementos that are up front for this service. The motorcycle, the wooden flag that Molly mentioned. He was an avid musician. He was a part of a couple bands in the Denver area, Brethren Fast and the Railbenders. He loved Led Zeppelin and Elvis Presley. He loved talking to people about music, teaching kids about music. We've heard from some of his bandmates that just said he was the life of the party up there. And
sounds like quite a well-rounded personality. I think he sounded like he had a lot of fun.
Yeah, they've done a really great job of painting the picture of who he is beyond the badge, right? We get to see who he was as a father, as a husband, as a friend. And then again, with everything that he loved to do, the drums.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say one time, live your eulogy. Every day, live your eulogy. And it sounds like he was a man who did that.
Good advice.
Yeah. Never heard him use profanity. You know, it just seemed like such a kind soul, a gentle soul, easy to talk to, and just was never that type to get so worked up that he just found the good in everyone. And again, we are cutting away from the service, briefly giving respect to the family members who may be speaking about Officer Beesley, and we're joined by Steve Davis, a longtime police officer, giving us a little bit of insight into these services, which unfortunately we're seeing again here 3 months after Officer Eric Talley in Boulder.
Yeah, they seem like they get a little more frequent than they did years ago, so sadly we have to do these. But it's necessary. I think it's very, very important, especially for the family, secondly for the department that officer comes from. I think in a service like this, one thing also that I see, and in a recent service that I was at just a couple weeks ago, when you hear a common thread about someone from that many people, that gives you a pretty good idea that it's not just one person that thinks this was a great guy. You hear it over and over and again from 20 people, 30 people that get up to speak. And pretty soon when you hear that same common thread that many times, I think we all get a real good impression of, in this case, what Officer Beesley was really like.
Well, and especially in a climate where police aren't always painted in the best light, right? And how important is it to remember that he sounds like one of the ones who really, he searched for the good in everybody, right?
He did.
And that, I'm assuming, included people he came into contact with through his job. How important is it to be reminded of that, not just for his family, but also for the fellow officers attending this service today?
Well, and like Brian said, who knows how many of those officers in there will have their remainder of their careers, I should say, shaped by the events of this past week, and hearing about Gordon and hearing from all these different people. So, yeah, I think.
And this all happened, we have to keep in mind, in Olde Town Arvada. It's a tight-knit community.
Yes.
This is a community gathering place. It's a place of retail and restaurants. As a police officer continuing to be on patrol in that area, how do you reconnect with the community, make sure that people know that it's a safe place, this is a fun place to be?
And how do you feel that way as an officer? Remind yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes a huge amount of inside determination, self-determination to go into that Old Town atmosphere, especially into the stores and talk to the people who work in that area, because not only was the department shaken, but I'm sure the community. I mean, this was somebody they knew very well, and they want to be reassured, and so do the other members of the police department, that we can continue that type of relationship with our community, because it's so important, critically important.
Well, over the past week, we've heard a lot about Officer Beesley's love for music and his passion for the drums.
As Denver 7's Addie Guajardo reports, while Beesley's talent was highly regarded, it was his character that truly made him stand out.
Gordon used to play a song called The Greaseball Creeper.
A song about an oil change Nathan Nicholas says Gordon Beesley wrote, played, and sang. A skill he taught Nate.
The Greaseball Creeper, gotta change your oil just fast you can, but it's holster bolts and a leather man.
Every note and every beat in Beesley's song brings back memories of him on the stage.
He was a singing and playing drummer. He could do both, and the crowd loved it.
Looks that mesmerized even his own bandmates.
The rest of us would just watch this big, muscular guy. He had long, bushy hair.
He loved Elvis Presley.
It was Fever by Elvis Presley.
And Led Zeppelin.
He's just a fun-loving guy.
Beesley played the drums in several bands, the most notable, Brethren Fast and the Railbenders.
He knew what to play during the verse, the chorus, the bridge, and that's what
made him an in-demand drummer. And he was good looking on the stage.
His passion for the drums pulsed through his veins as a kid.
There's something special about him.
A musician who liked to march to the beat of his own drum.
I don't think I ever heard the guy use profanity.
Nathan says Beesley's smile was a glimpse into his big heart.
He had a passion for community, for service, and for his family.
Friends are still processing his murder.
And it was a shock. Yeah, really hits home.
A loss for the music community.
Overall, the music community we lost family member, a brother.
Beesley may be gone, but he lives on through his songs. Every soul he touched with every stroke roll.
Yeah, stories like that really paint a picture of who he was and how fun he was, how multi-talented that he was, and how devastating of a loss this is for everybody.
I think you truly are seeing a celebration of life here.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a solemn part of it, you are seeing a celebration of life, certainly.
Steve, you've talked about losing some officers when you were an officer. As the department, would you guys stop each year and take a moment to remember the people you've lost as the years move on? Can we expect to see that from Arvada Police?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the first week in May every year is Law Enforcement Memorial Week. And there are many events around the country, the biggest being back in Washington, D.C. And they honor and commemorate all the names that have been added to the memorial in the past year, officers who lost their life. But each community, including here, has their own local ceremonies. And certainly the sheriff's office I worked for, the police department I worked for, every year remembers those officers with a ceremony out by usually a memorial site that they have outside the police department or the sheriff's office. So it's remembered every year.
Very touching, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we have cut away from the service temporarily. We understand that there is a slideshow presentation going on right now, and again, out of respect for the family, we are not broadcasting that portion of the service. And so we are here with Steve, reflecting on some of the memories and what we know about Officer Beesley and some of the insight that goes into a service like this, and how many officers are affected by this. Again, you have an officer who was involved in so much. The schools, the motorcycle unit, bike patrol, patrolling on the streets. It takes a certain person to dip his toe into so much of the department.
Yeah, I think, and again, the Olde Town Arvada atmosphere, we're all pretty well familiar with that. I would imagine that the merchants up there knew Gordon very well.
Yeah.
And he'll be missed. He'll be missed tremendously by the kids at school, the department, those merchants that we're talking about. But back to the ceremony, I think when I said I think we're really seeing a celebration of life, that's a good thing. 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was a different type of ceremony usually. It was very, very solemn from start to finish. And I don't think we got quite the look into those people's lives that we do today. And I think it's so much better for our people, the people who have been there in the church, and the members of the Arvada Police Department who have had to grapple with some real emotions.
Certainly. And it sounds like we have another guest approaching the podium at the service, so we want to get back to that right now if we can.
Hi, my name is Jim Dalton, and Gordon was a founding member of our band, the Railbenders, and I had the honor of singing at Karen and Gordon's wedding. Thank you for inviting me to share a story today. It was back in 2000. My wife Dawn and I were a young couple just starting out. We were living in our first home with our first baby boy, Jacob, our 4-year-old black lab, Nikki, and we also had a very recent addition to our family named Buster. Buster was a young and very rambunctious Great Pyrenees yellow lab mix. We adopted Buster from a relative who said they couldn't handle him, so we offered
to give Buster a new home with us, thinking he would be a good companion for our dog, Nikki, since we could no longer give Nikki 100% of our attention with the arrival of Jacob. The problem was Nikki thought she was human, and once Buster moved in, she would look at us as though she was saying, "Why is this lunatic in our home, and how much longer is he going to be here?" So much for the companion idea. And admittedly, Buster was a bit of a bull in the china shop, and I would often find him using several of my shoes as chew toys. And then there was a time that he ate my father-in-law's gazebo. But we loved Buster, and we had faith he would eventually grow out of these less than desirable behaviors. Then one day, as I was talking to Gordon on the phone, he told me that he wanted to adopt a dog. Later that evening over dinner, I mentioned this to my wife, and we both discussed the possibility of having Gordon meet Buster to see if they might be a good match for each other, because when we looked at our situation, we had to be honest with ourselves and admit that having a large, high-energy dog and a toddler was a bit too much to handle. We thought if Buster could be with someone who could give him more attention, it might be for the best. So I called Gordon, and I asked if he wanted to meet Buster. I told him Buster was a sweetheart of a dog, but he was young and had some behavioral issues, and he was a handful. Understandably, Gordon did not sound too thrilled about Buster. But Gordon, being Gordon, agreed to at least meet him, with the caveat that he couldn't make any promises to take him because he had planned to look at many other dogs and would make a decision after visiting a shelter or two. I told him no pressure whatsoever, that we were fully prepared to keep Buster. So we arranged the meeting. The next day when I got to Gordon's, we took Buster to the backyard, and Buster took to Gordon like a fish to water, and vice versa. They were immediately bonding and wrestling around in the backyard. It was like some kind of weird reunion where they had never met before. And I may as well have been invisible. So after a while, like a kid asking his parents' permission, Gordon looks up to me and he asks, "Hey, can Buster spend the night?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And so I left my two buddies that day, and on the drive home, all sorts of thoughts were going through my mind. Like, at the very least, Buster is going to eat one of Gordon's shoes, or destroy a piece of furniture, or maybe jump the fence and eat the neighbor's gazebo. And then he'll bark all night, wondering why I left him there. And then in the morning, Gordon would be politely declining to take Buster, and I'd be bringing him home. So the next morning, I get a call from Gordon, and he started with, "I have some bad news, buddy." And I said, "I know what you're going to say. What time do you want me to be there?" Gordon says, "No, yeah, I'm sorry. He's like the sweetest, most well-mannered dog I've ever met." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I want to keep him. I think it's going to work out." And I said, I found myself backpedaling all of a sudden. I was like, "Are you sure? You haven't even looked at any other dogs. What happened to your plan?" He said, "I don't need to. Buster's the one." And then he says, "Don't worry, you can visit him anytime you want." And so just like that, Buster moved in with Gordon, and the rest is history, as many of you know. Those two were inseparable. If any of you think you love your dog as much as Gordon loved Buster, I'm here to tell you, you're wrong. The relationship was extraordinary. He told me Buster changed his life, and he thanked me profusely every time I talked to him. And we even had, as he mentioned earlier, Sergeant told me he had that tattoo of Buster. That's commitment. That's dedication. But that was Gordon. He treated everyone like a Buster. He accepted and loved everyone unconditionally in spite of their flaws. He was a champion for the underdog. If everyone was just a little more like Gordon, what a wonderful world this would be. I'm going to honor Gordon's legacy by trying to be more like him, and I hope you will too.
Didn't catch that part at the end, but it got a little round of applause, whatever it is he said. But what a wonderful story and tie-in to Buster the dog.
Yeah.
And personality of Officer Gordon Beesley there. And now we know where the tattoo came from.
I was going to say.
On his arm, yeah.
Yeah, we do. And I think that, again, that's a testament to his character. Another story about him that gives us an insight to that character was the one about the dog.
Right, right. Incredible to see, and just his commitment to people and animals both, and finding the good in everyone. You know, he just seemed to tackle every task with 100% commitment and wanting to find the good out of every situation.
And once again, like I said earlier, that common thread that we're hearing from everybody is Gordon's character and what it was like. And when you hear that from so many people, you start to get a real good impression of what Gordon was like.
Right. I think at the service right now, the Rail Benders Band, which Gordon was a member of, is setting up on the stage and about to play right now. I don't know if we want to cut back to that. They may not be ready. Okay, we're going to listen now.
Okay.
Yes, I understand that every life must end. As we sit alone, I know someday we must go on. Oh, I'm a lucky man to count on both hands the ones I love. Some folks just have one, yeah, others they got none. Stay with me, let's just breathe. Practiced on our sins, never gonna let me win. Under everything, just another human being. Yeah, I don't wanna hurt. There's so much in the world to make me bleed. Stay with me, oh, all I see. Did I say that I need you? Did I say that I want you? Oh, if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come clean, I wonder every day as I look upon your face. Everything you gave and nothing you would take on. Nothing you would take, everything you gave. Did I say that I need you? Oh, did I say that I want you? Oh, if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come clean. Nothing you would take, everything you gave. Hold me till I die, meet you on the other side.
That's great. I think this is the way church ought to be all the time. Amen. I think 2 takeaways from today is we really wish we knew Gordon better, those of us who didn't know him. And the other takeaway is I want to party with that guy. Yeah, I'll be Googling the dreads later, just so you know. Let's get it, dude. That concludes our service. Thank you for the gift of your husband and your dad, your son, your brother. Now let this community take care of you, because we love you. Let's stand. So, Father God, we started this by saying we hope everything here is pleasing to you and honors your son, Gordon, and I pray that happened. Right now, we're going to ask for you to do what only you can do, and that is heal brokenness, broken hearts, broken communities, and you'll do it because you're a God of love and care and compassion, and you know what it's like to lose a son. You also know that death is not the end. It doesn't have to be. So take Gordon and receive him and take care of him. And his soul and his spirit will live on in so many in this room. We will be different. We'll be better because you shared him with us. Let me give you thanks for that. God, I pray a blessing and protection on the law enforcement community. They stand on a line between good and evil, and they fight for us. And it's been a rough season. But let them know that this community loves them and honors them, respects them, and we stand with them, and we always will. So God, thank you for this moment that we remember your son, Gordon Beesley. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I ask everyone to remain standing except the family. Go ahead and be seated for the rest of this service.
And Steve, we'd like to refer to you to give us a little explanation of what's happening right now.
I believe we're probably about to see the flag folding. You'll see the honor guard come in, lift the flag off the casket, very meticulously fold it, and then another officer will inspect it, take that flag, fold it into a triangle over to the chief of police, and here I'm guessing, but I'd say it's usually the chief of police. And then the chief of police will be the one to present that flag to Mrs. Beesley. So we'll see here as the honor guard files in, there will be 2 of them that will actually do the folding and hand it to a third member of the honor guard.
And each fold has a significance to it.
It does. I sure can't remember all of them, to tell you the honest truth. But
I've got them here, Steve.
Very good.
But yeah, very, very symbolic.
At some point, I imagine, sometimes customary at police funerals, the playing of taps and Amazing Grace by the bagpipes.
Yeah, and once they're outside, I wouldn't doubt whether we see a 21-gun salute. I don't know if there's a graveside service or not. If there's a graveside service, sometimes that's left to do at that location, but they may do that outside here. But loading that casket into the hearse will be something that they'll wait for all the officers to get outside to make these rank and files to watch that loaded in.
And you can hear and see with each ringing of the bell, each officer gives a salute to the casket draped in the American flag as they prepare to fold the flag and present it to Officer Beesley's family.
And I think the chief's comments to the wife, in this case Mrs. Beesley, I certainly can't quote what he's going to say. He may change it up a little bit, but it is mostly a thank you for the service that her husband provided to the Arvada Police Department, and a promise that they will always be there for her. How he goes about saying that, I'm not sure, but that's usually the gist of what he's going to say to her.
And that's so important. We forget this is happening during such a tumultuous time in our world right now. It has been a tough year for the community, for law enforcement, and for the family. And so having that support is going to be vital.
It has been, and as we talked about earlier, it's so nice to see the amount of support that we saw today still there, even through these times where law enforcement's gone through some real tough times. There are many people lining that road today, just citizens who came out to pay their respects.
We're seeing some of the formality, the tradition that goes into the respect before folding the flag. Is there a particular role his unit, his closest co-workers will play in all of this?
You know, I don't know that. It's possible. I don't know that it's exactly protocol or in that manual that I talked about earlier, but they can improvise a little bit and bring in, you know, whether it be the other SROs, school resource officers, or motorcycle officers. We'll see if they do something here. Looks like we're going to see the folding of the flag here.
And this is the process we've been talking about, that telling you you're going to see the folding of the flag. Each fold represents a symbol. The first fold is for the symbol of life. And they do this in a very specific way.
Yes.
We heard the playing of taps, which is the national song of remembrance, chosen for its melancholy tone, yet full of peace. We watched the formal folding of the flag.
And the second fold is the symbol of our belief of eternal life. And the third fold honors and remembers the officer who gave his life. The fourth fold represents our human weakness and turning to a higher power for strength and guidance. And then the fifth is a tribute to our country.
The sixth fold represents where our hearts lie, and our heart we pledge allegiance to our country. The seventh, a tribute to our armed forces, which protect our country. The eighth fold, a tribute to the person who has passed, that we might see them again in the light of day. The ninth is a tribute to motherhood. Through their loyalty, faith, and devotion, it's helped mold the character of men and women who make up our country. And the 10th, to the father for setting an example and giving sons and daughters to help defend our country.
And the 11th fold is a tribute to the heritage and wisdom of the ancient Kings David and Solomon and their faith and leadership. The 12th fold, an emblem of eternity, and glorifies God the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And you can see the final fold leaves the stars facing outward, reminding us of our national motto, "In God we trust." And once it's completely folded, the stars are in the uppermost part, reminding us of our national motto, "In God we trust." And you'll see that they're going to present it to the family now.
And they check the folds.
They'll
before
check
they
the
do.
fold, and you can see them tucking in what's left of the flag there. That's on every single time that they fold it, it comes up to where that little piece remains, and it's tucked in very tightly. But just like in a military service, the flag always has the stars showing, and the flag is never unfolded, ever. It'll be presented to her, and it will never be unfolded.
And this really represents those last moments the family has with their loved one before they're laid to rest.
They do, and we're about to see this inspection of the folding. The officer will hand it over to another officer. He'll take a look at it, inspect the folds, and in turn, he will turn around and give that flag to the chief of police.
As you mentioned, here's Arvada Chief Link Straight taking over the flag. He spoke at the beginning of the service, a very personal note on who Officer Gordon Beesley was, how much he meant to the department, how well respected and loved he was.
Yes, and again, in respect to the family, we're not showing him handing it to her, I assume. But that's what's going on now, is the chief is presenting the flag to Mrs. Beesley.
And the chief saying one of the most powerful things I think we've heard of this memorial service, looking at Officer Beesley's boys and saying, your dad was quite simply one of the finest human beings I've ever met.
Officer Beesley, a 19-year veteran of the Arvada Police Department, died in the line of duty, ambushed and killed last Monday, June 21st in Olde Town, early in the afternoon, about 1:30 p.m. He was born in Connecticut, graduated from UC Boulder in 1991 with an English degree. He is survived by his wife, his 2 sons, his sister and brother. He was a motorcycle officer for 5 years. He was a school resource officer for more than 10 years with the Jefferson County School District. And he played the drums for the Drum and Bugle Corps.
We've really gotten a good idea of the spirit by which he lived through today's ceremony. People talking about his love for life, his love for music, his passion for people, and always wanting to find the good in people.
You see the additional flags there. I'm sure they have those for the 2 sons. The first one would be presented to Mrs. Beesley, the second and third to his sons.
Again, out of respect for the family, not showing the handoff there of the flag, but certainly an emotional time, giving some sort of closure to this service, but with a piece, a memento that they will have forever.
Those boys saying they always had fun with Dad. He was easy to talk to, he was a good listener, and he would always tell them, go on and do it. It builds character.
I think Gordon's character is that of an officer that we all aspire to be, that we try to hire. And he, as I said earlier, he's just very well-rounded in his character. That goes far in this line of work.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and stay in the sanctuary as the immediate family exits.
So we talk about Officer Gordon Beesley's character. You know, he sounds like a person that people gravitated towards in the department. And I imagine that many departments, I mean, those are the guys you look to. They're leaders, you know, they take the job seriously, but they're fun to be around.
They just have a natural knack to be that way.
That's right.
And it sounds like he certainly was. I think what we also may see here is in some ceremonies, all the officers in the church file out and wait for the casket to come out. But another twist on that is sometimes they'll take the casket first outside and then everyone file out to say a final goodbye. So we'll see which they do here.
And then is it up to the family about whether the burial service will be private or who will attend that?
Certainly, it's up to the family, and I know of no plans for a graveside service. They may have one just for the family, or they may have one for everyone. Sometimes there's no graveside service at all. So what the plans are from here, I do not know. Quite often a graveside service is very, very personal and sometimes only for family.
Watching the bagpipers play, it's always so intense, melancholy yet full of peace.
Yeah, the bagpipes have really become a part of every one of these services lately. Years ago, there weren't any bagpipes at services like this, and we started off with one piper, and now you see a whole bunch of bagpipers at a ceremony like this.
We just noticed a changing of the honor guard there around the casket. You mentioned that they rotate every few minutes. The current officers appear to be in a different color uniform than the previous officers. Not uncommon, I assume, for other departments to step in.
Right, not at all. It's an honor. It's just an honor to do that, and they will rely on officers from many departments to do that. Arvada Police Department certainly has their own honor guard that'll be a part of this, but being the officers who stay with the body can be from any department around here that wants to do that.
And you see in the background those blue roses that we saw at the top of the memorial service, representing each of the departments across the country, placing one of those blue roses in that vase.
Yeah, and I think from what I've seen, there are far more departments there than there are roses in that vase. So how they disseminated those roses, I'm not real sure.
For Sam 21. For Sam 21. Dispatch to 4 Sam 21. Negative response. All cars stand by for a tone. All cars be advised. This is the final call for 4 Sam 21. Officer Gordon Beesley, badge number 0219. Officer Beesley was fatally shot while responding to a call for service on June 21st, 2021, after serving the citizens of Arvada for 19 years. He was an outstanding officer an amazing person, and will be deeply missed. Officer Beesley, you will be remembered for many reasons, including your dedication to duty, devotion to your family, your love for life, and how you made a positive impact on everyone you encountered. We will try to follow your example to look for the good in every day. Officer Beesley, you are clear for end of watch. Rest in peace, Gordo. We'll take the beat from here. Code 1 cleared on Channel 1.
And you heard them calling his name, 4Sam21. That was his call sign on the radio. Obviously, no response.
It breaks your heart to think of his wife and his children hearing that final call.
Indeed.
Give a listen to Amazing Grace. Steve, you mentioned the end of watch call, that final radio call, and how symbolic that is, and the purpose of it.
Yeah, you hear the dispatcher call his call sign over the air 2 or 3 times with no response. It's very symbolic in that, in this case, 4Sam21, or Gordon Beesley, is no longer there to answer and to serve or to answer calls for service. They acknowledge that and then tell him that they have the watch from here, that we'll pick it up from here.
And that's symbolic on so many levels.
It is. It is.
Well, it's been a service filled with a range of emotions. Certainly a great window into who the man Officer Gordon Beesley was. We heard so many stories of joyous moments, his passion for music, his passion for everyone he came into contact with, his fellow officers, the children he came into contact with as a school resource officer, and the positivity that he emitted, the optimism and the good that he looked for in everyone.
Yeah, and I think when we started off, we had hoped for a celebration of life and for a snapshot of the life of Gordon Beesley, and I think we got that. I think we got an accurate picture of the type of man he was.
Beautiful service for a man who lived a beautiful life.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of his love for biking and for traveling and for music. He played in 2 different bands. We heard from one of them, the Railbenders, and more than anything, his love for his family and how dedicated he was to them. So a fitting tribute for such a beloved officer.
A man who looked for the good in everyone. I think that we can all learn that from Officer Beesley.
I think the department is about to enter a time, whether that's a week, 6 months, who knows, a time where they will reflect on today's services and on the life of Gordon Beesley, and who knows what influence that'll have on all of them.
Well, Steve, we certainly appreciate your time.
Thank
you
you
so much for talking through this with us and joining us. And thank you for joining us and honoring Officer Beesley this morning.
We want to go back to regular programming now. We hope you will join our Denver 7 News team later today in our afternoon and evening newscast. Thank you for being with us.